Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Casey and here on my channel we talk about personal growth, lifestyle, and personal finance. Today we're going to be talking about my best and worst purchases of 2020. So if you're interested in seeing what I spent money on in 2020, just keep watching. So I'm going to start off with my worst purchases first and then move on to my best purchases so we can get the bad stuff out of the way. So the first thing on my worst list is a Patreon subscription. So this is more so that I feel like I overstayed my welcome on Patreon, not that Patreon in and of itself is a bad service. So in 2020, I actually signed on to be a patron of one of my favorite lifestyle creators that we actually are pretty similar in the fact that we are in the same industry for our jobs, and we have just a lot of similar life experience. So when I became a patron of her on Patreon, she had a lot of great content, but a lot of it was stuff that I already knew because I was already in that field in my career, and we kind of like have similar life experiences. So I was a patron of hers for maybe like 5 or 6 months, and where her content's great for other people, it just really wasn't bringing that much value to me. So that's one of my worst purchases. My second worst purchase is kind of similar to the first one, and it is Skillshare. So similar to how I said about Patreon, it's not that I find Skillshare to be a bad service. It's more that a lot of the things that you can learn on Skillshare are things that I already know. So by trade, I'm a graphic designer and a photographer, and I do a lot of like illustration and just like digital art. So a lot of the skills that people use Skillshare to learn, I already know. So where there's a lot of value in Skillshare, if you're not in those industries and if you don't have that knowledge, for me, it wasn't really worth the price tag. I believe it's about $99, or my subscription was about $99, and it just was something that like I had, but I wasn't actually using that much. So that's one of my worst purchases for sure for 2020. So my third worst purchase is kind of a doozy, and it is a combination of Bluehost and 2 WordPress templates that I bought in the summertime. So altogether for this one, I spent about $250 that I completely like just lost. So if you don't know, I have my own blog, CaseyOrange.com, that I've been running for about a year on Squarespace. And around the summertime, I was researching on like how to grow your blog and just, you know, other tips on how to grow my platform. And a lot of people recommended having a self-hosted WordPress site as a way to increase your chances of monetization. So I decided to give it a try. I purchased I used Bluehost as like the host and domain, and then I purchased 2 WordPress templates, and I only purchased 2 because I didn't like the first one. Like I bought the first one and then found the second one that I liked better than the first one, so I just bought 2. So I went through the whole process of recreating my current Squarespace site in WordPress, and a couple of days before I was going to push it live, I logged into my Bluehost account and the website was gone, like completely gone. I called customer service. They said like, oh, there's actually no instance or like no record of you ever having a website. And I was like, what do you mean there's no record? And they were like, we just don't, like, it's not showing that you had a website. And hindsight, I think it was because I hadn't published the site yet, but still I spent about 2 to 3 weeks recreating my entire website on WordPress, which included about 25 to 30 different pages. So of course, all that work went down the drain. I still haven't recovered my Bluehost WordPress site. It's just like lost in the ether. So I ended up just sticking with Squarespace after, you know, a month of trying to use WordPress. And I ended up purchasing a premium Squarespace template from a web designer. Her company is called 23andNine, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. And I've just been using Squarespace ever since, and I probably will use Squarespace for the rest of my time online because it's super easy to use. And even though I'm a graphic designer, web design is like not my specialty, and I'm not that good at coding. So Squarespace allows me to do enough customization, but without getting really technical and having to have coding knowledge. So all in all, Bluehost plus those 2 WordPress templates were one of my worst purchases of 2020. And lastly, for my worst purchases is a bunch of clothes and just things that I bought because I was either bored or I just had extra money to spend that I shouldn't have used in that way. So I'm someone that, like, anytime I have extra money, I'm like, ooh, what can I buy? Let me go on Sephora, let me go on Ulta, let me go on Amazon, let me see what's out there and let me see what I can buy. And I do that a lot. So I do kind of like fall in that trap a lot of just like browsing to see what's out there, even if I don't need something. But one thing that I am really good at is I will return anything. Like, I'm not that person that buys something, doesn't like it, and is like, I'll just keep it. No, I'm taking it back. I literally go to the UPS store at least once a week because I get so many Amazon packages that I return. I also like am not, like, literally just returning stuff is not an issue for me. And actually that kind of helps me to purchase more things because I kind of convince myself like, oh, well, I can buy this now, and if I don't like it, I can just return it and I can get all my money back and it'll be, you know, good as gone. Which is kind of true, but the fact that I just like purchase things to get a quick high and like for the fun of purchasing things is just not a good use of my money. I am pretty good with my money, but I like allocate a small amount of my finances that I can use for whatever I want. And if I have any extra money in that, you know, in that allocation, I'm like, oh, let me just buy something. So even if I returned majority of the stuff that I purchased, I still bought a lot of stuff and like spent a lot of money in this category. So all of the like unnecessary, fun, on a whim type purchases were definitely part of the worst category for 2020. Okay, moving on to my best purchases. So the first one is personal development books. So 2020 for me was the year that I discovered personal development books. So that sounds kind of weird, like they've always been there, but I guess, and when I say discovered, I mean like discovered that they could actually help me, that they weren't just like memoirs or just like, you know, accounts of other people's experiences, but like they were actually resources that you could use to learn to like work on your life too. So I bought probably around like 15 to 20 personal development books in 2020. I'm still working on getting through all of them, but the ones that I've finished and the ones that I'm like currently reading have been super helpful, and like I've gotten a lot out of them. And if I hadn't, you know, found them and started reading them, I would have been stunted in my personal growth. So I'm really happy that in 2020 I discovered the world of personal development and was able to learn a lot of things that I otherwise wouldn't have learned. The second thing is my budget planner. So 2020 was like the first year that I took budgeting seriously. I actually purchased my budget planner like either New Year's Day or like within that first week. So I was able to budget like the entire year of 2020. I was able to make so much progress in 2020, and I know it's because I was making an effort to track my finances, track my expenses, actively save, actively invest, all those things. Where in the years prior, I was just kind of like getting a paycheck, and as long as I had enough money in my bank account at a time that I wanted to purchase something or wanted to do something, I'm like, okay, cool, I'll do it. I really wasn't saving on a regular basis. It was kind of like whenever I thought of it, I would, you know, throw a couple $100s to my savings account. But in 2020, I really started taking my finances seriously, and it really shows in the progress that I've made in 2020. So that was definitely one of my best purchases of 2020. And I actually am continuing to budget and using a budget planner in 2021. So the third best purchase is my important documents binder. So here's what mine looks like. It's this mint green binder from Target. It's the sugar paper line. But in 2020, I really made an effort to consolidate and just like get all of my personal documents in one place. So before that, since I still live at home, a lot of my stuff was kind of like intermixed with my parents' stuff, which is fine. But with the plans of moving out soon and kind of, you know, taking steps to become more autonomous as an adult, I really wanted to have a place that I created that has all my important documents. So within my binder, I created 5 different categories for the different documents. So those include financial, auto, medical, career, and taxes. So all of my important documents for those things are kept in this binder. And what I did was I purchased the like heavy duty sheet protectors that also have like the security flap on them, and I put every single document in a sheet protector and then put them in my binder. So I do keep this in a safe place in my house, so it's not just like sitting around, but I love that I have a place where I can go and reference if I need anything important. If I need to like reference anything important, it's all in one place, and it's easy to get to, and it's easy to flip through and find things. So I really think that this was one of the best purchases that I made and kind of things that I did in 2020. So my fourth best purchase is my 2020 MacBook Pro 16-inch. So here it is. I have a blue case on it. But in 2020, I upgraded my 2014 13-inch MacBook Pro to the 2020 16-inch MacBook Pro, and I love it. Like, it was definitely one of my best purchases of the year. I use it on a daily basis, and since I do a lot of graphic design, photography work, having the larger screen has been a lifesaver. If you think you want the 16-inch, or you're like debating between the 13 and the 16, if you have like a true use case for the 16-inch, I definitely recommend it, and it's definitely been hands down one of my best purchases of 2020. So my fifth best purchase is an online course that I took from a fellow YouTuber. Her name is Shayna. I took the Find Your Passion in 13 Days course in like the fall time, and I absolutely loved it. It did take me more than 13 days, but that was just because I really took it slow and was trying to really digest and soak up all the information that she was giving in each day's course. But I loved it. Like, I reference it a bunch now. I printed out my entire workbook, so I have it like so that I can go and reference, and I absolutely loved the course. So the first half of the course is kind of mindset focused, and it's more about like how your brain and your mind is keeping you from the things that you really love. And then the second half is kind of exploring the things that you like to do, the things that you're good at, and all those kind of things, so that you can morph the two together and find something, or discover or uncover something, the thing within yourself that you are like destined to do. And I recommend it. I know it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's totally worth it. And if you're struggling with like your career path, or just like needing some more direction in life moving forward, I totally recommend doing this course. And I've had really good results from it, so I really recommend it. And my last best purchase is therapy. So 2020 was the first year that I was in therapy the entire year, and it honestly has been like I can without a doubt say that it has saved my life. Like, I love therapy. I'm an only child, so a lot of times I don't have like someone else to bounce ideas off of, or just like to talk and, you know, get someone else's opinion, or just kind of work through what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And my weekly therapy sessions are really that for me. It's where I can really digest and break down and understand the things that are happening in my day-to-day life, and kind of then notice what that's showing me and make plans on how to move forward. So I really love therapy. I really recommend therapy. I actually did a whole video on why I go to therapy and why you should too. I'll link that up in the cards. But yeah, I love therapy. I totally recommend it. And if you have the means to, I think it's a great thing to do, regardless of like if you're struggling with anything, if you're going through anything. Therapy just helps you be a better you. So regardless of your circumstances, if you can afford it and if you have the means to, I really recommend to see a therapist. So there we have it, my best and worst purchases of 2020. Let me know down in the comments below what your best and worst purchases of 2020 are, and if you have any similar positive or negative experiences with purchasing and your purchasing decisions in 2020. Before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!